Do you want to make your house irresistible to buyers by improving its curb appeal? I'll show you key elements to focus on and address issues home sellers face. But more than that, I'll offer you solutions and give you tips from my 15 years of selling homes. I'll do that with before and after examples. Let's take a look at a front entrance. Here's an entrance that is tired and needs some love, right? It's not inviting and it looks a little spooky. Now I'm going to use some digital magic in this illustration. Let's clean it up with a pressure wash and you'll see the concrete surface brighten up. Nice even tone. A pressure washer will also remove the loose paint and grime quite nicely. I'll talk more about pressure washing in a bit. All right, now that the surface is clean, we can assess what is needed. And what is needed is paint, white trim paint. Oh boy, now paint is money in a can, truly. Look what a coat of fresh white paint can do here. Huge difference, right? Let's give the door a fresh coat of paint too. Very nice, polished look. It's getting there. All right, let's talk about lighting fixtures. If your entry light is dated, corroded, broken, you'll want to replace it. Let's change out this relic for an updated fixture. Nice, right? It's only $40 online and gives a lot of bang for the buck. Hello. And don't be afraid to choose larger fixtures too. It's a trend that I feel will stay around for a while. Now, something as simple as updating house numbers can give an elevated look too. The script styling of these numbers, they were very fashionable in the 50s and they've stuck around for a good long time. I don't know why, but they must go. Let's replace them with a current look for about $35. Now, see how these small elements have such a positive impact? Oh, I also replaced the doorbell because it's cheap and ties together the black theme here. One thing to note, if you are using nickel or brass lighting fixtures, then all the elements should match accordingly for a cohesive look. It's not a good look to use one metal for the house number and then a different finish for the lighting fixture. Makes sense? It's just a mishmash. Okay, let's see what else. Entry curtains, they get really grungy quickly. And these are dingy. Ugh. Let's put up new sheer curtains to brighten it up. They only cost about $10 or $15 from Amazon, and it gives a super crisp, clean look, see? Now that everything's all buttoned up, let's soften it up a bit to make it more inviting. Let's add a doormat. Okay, now here's a pro tip. Use an oversized entry mat. It really does elevate an entry. And the small ones at a front entry, they just look silly, dinky. All right. This entrance still needs a little love, a little bit more welcoming, so let's add some planters for an inviting feel. Lovely. You can also put whatever flowers are in season too, but these boxwood shrubs, they're a smart option. They'll have a consistent look while the house is on the market. And otherwise, if you use potted flowers, it can be they're very moody. They may not look brilliant all the time. You'll have to constantly babysit them. Is there anything else the entrance needs? Maybe a little pop of color, more decor to add character. How about this? The answer is no, 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 no. Please, your eyes go straight to it. It's distracting and evokes thoughts and conversation. We don't want that. The point is we all don't share the same taste, so it can be off-putting. If you enjoy this colorful wreath, you probably are an absolute pleasure. Lots of fun, and I'd love to meet you. But for the sake of selling, neutrality distracts no one, and it's a good bet. Okay, all right. So if you positively, absolutely must have a wreath, go neutral and classic like this. But honestly, less decor is more. Less decor is more. I like that. All right, let's look back at the before entrance. It creates emotions like fear, concern, anxiety. Now let's compare it to after. This creates emotions of pleasure and feeling welcomed. It looks like easy living. Now, this transformation wasn't a major overhaul. This example demonstrates that low-cost updating can mean everything to attract the widest pool of buyers. The planters are probably the biggest expense here, but you can take planters to your new home or use them in negotiations with the buyer. What's the best color you should use on the front door? It's hilarious how many times I get asked this and how many studies are out there on which door color has the best appeal to increase the sales price. One door color may yield more money than another, and this and that. Please allow me to filter the noise. Let's review door colors on our front entrance. A black door is the most popular for good reason. It's a striking neutral color that goes with everything, and it gives an air of respectability, right? It works great for this example. Let's look at a monotone look with a similar blue to the exterior. Wow, not bad, and it gives a stylish look, right? Let's look at brown. Brown is another safe neutral color. There's something warming about browns and wood tones. And by the way, a beautifully stained wood door, that is that is the gold standard, and please don't paint it. All right, browns work, but maybe not the best for this entry. How about gray? Hmm. Gray works for modern designs, but in general, it's not a good fit unless the house is another shade of gray for like a monotone look, or it could possibly work for a beige exterior, a darker one. All right. How about pastels? Ooh, pastels are fun. They're popular all around Richmond, but it's probably not the best color to appeal to the widest pool of buyers, when it comes time to sell. White is great for smaller entrances, especially when it matches the trim as well. It gives an open illusion, but white isn't the best option for this entry. Other popular primary colors like red and yellow, they stand out, but studies show it may negatively impact the appeal of the property. But honestly, we're really splitting hairs here. Unless the door is a disturbing, bright, awful color that just sticks out like a sore thumb. The best choice of door color really depends on the house it's attached to. Just keep it neutral and paired nicely. But if you're asking me sight unseen, my answer for the best door color is black. Black all day. It's a safe bet. And by the way, if you want to paint your door black from another color, be forewarned. It will require 2 or 3 coats to cover the door evenly, but it's worth a strong look. At least that's what I told myself one Saturday afternoon. Before I continue, please don't worry about taking notes. I'm sharing a lot of information here, so I created a comprehensive checklist to break things down for quick reference. A link is provided in the description below to get a free copy. Now let's go to a front yard. So many of us at RVA battle to keep our lawn and landscaping in healthy condition. This is especially during the blazing hot summers. The struggle is real with either too much sun or none at all. It's brutal. You'll see folks just giving up and living with the Sahara Desert look, I swear. But if you are selling, there are solutions to replace a lifeless lawn with something that's beautiful and sustainable, for lovely curb appeal. Let's look at an example with a yard that gets full roasting sun, and we're going to transform it through some digital magic again to address key issues. I'm using a smaller front yard to illustrate key concepts more clearly, but it'll apply to any front yard. First off, we'll add a little fresh paint to the trim and sharpen it up. Again, paint is money in a can, and we'll paint up the columns below the porch. Nice. Let's clean it up and remove the weeds. Okay, now we have a blank canvas now. The goal here is to put in plants that will survive and thrive in full sun. Boxwoods do well and aren't terribly expensive. Petunias are the stars of the show, and they are reasonable. They're one of the most popular flowering annuals, basically because they bloom from spring until the first frost. Most importantly, they can take full sun, and that's why you'll see them in commercial landscaping all over the place. It's smart. Wax begonias are a smart choice for full sun too. They are also reasonable, so I'll use them liberally to soften this edge over here. If you are selling during the colder months, or if your front yard is mostly shaded where a lot of plants don't thrive, Just sub out seasonal plants to ones that look great year round. You don't have to be a landscaping professional to get amazing results here. Simply look around your neighborhood and see what's thriving under the same conditions. I call it R&D. That's rip off and duplicate. There's no need to be clever for successful landscaping results here. Now let's talk mulch. It's the easiest and cheapest way to substitute grass that is difficult to maintain. Always use black or dark brown mulch. Please don't use the red mulch. I beg you, please don't use the red mulch. It's not necessary to match the color of the house or the color of the roof or other nonsense guidelines that are out there. Here is red mulch. Yucky, right? It's a dreadful look only reserved for fast food joints and maybe dollar stores, but I think they've even stopped using it too. However, it can be beautifully integrated in countryside properties, but it's not a good look in the suburbs or in town. Let's change it to a nice dark mulch. It's a crisp look, right? Now here's a pro tip. You don't need to lay weed barriers underneath the mulch. You just don't. A generous layer of mulch is sufficient to block sunlight needed for weeds to sprout. Plus, mulch is essentially wood, and it breaks down and releases nutrients to enrich the soil. That makes the surrounding plants very happy. Okay, enough mulch talk. Now, what else does this little yard need? Maybe a little pop of color, maybe a little feature to add personality. Well, that's a no. No, no, no. Conversation pieces in the yard distracts buyers. Oh, and while we're on this topic, please don't have signs of support for anything, okay? No signs, please. Neutrality distracts no one. All right, the yard looks good, and I want to put costs in perspective. Sure, it's easy for me to visually demonstrate possibilities here, but the real cost to transform this front yard from bleak to chic is important. These are the costs if you purchase materials from a home center. And here's the total cost for the shrubs, flowers, and mulch, $310. This makeover would take a day to complete, but it's a first impression that will pay off big. If do-it-yourself isn't possible, feel free to reach out to me for trusted tradespeople. I have a curated list of recommendations in the Richmond metro area for pretty much any task. This example is of a modest front-of-the-yard update in the city. It's nothing fancy, but you can get far more elaborate based on the price point. Homes with higher price points should have well-maintained landscaping, that's for sure. But I can't stress this enough. Please listen, it's important not to overspend on landscaping. This is especially if you intend to sell your property soon. Landscaping, it's a fine line of investing just enough to attract the buyers. I've seen too much spent on landscaping and hardscaping, like fancy walkways or rock walls, and it becomes a waste of money and you can't recoup. And too much landscaping deters buyers as they may not want to manage extra yard work and spend their whole weekends manicuring. If you have a lot of plants already, make it look great, but please don't overspend on plantings. Here are a few ideas if the front yard is shaded and the home has a higher price point. If you want an elevated look, this combination of white crushed rocks and plants do well in the shade. Here is a combination of pavers with moss and astroturf. It's a very British country look. You can also make a patio of it with slate or even stamped concrete. It all depends on your timeline, budget, and price point for the property. I see heavily shaded yards with incredible ivy for ground cover, but that takes time to mature. My examples are for realistic solutions to transform curb appeal quickly if needed. Now, here are a few examples of properties with exemplary front yards without any lawns. I just had to share how some folks in Richmond curate their front yards so beautifully. These yards are extraordinary, but it takes a lot of work to maintain, right? Here's an existing front yard that needs just a little quick refresh. I wanted to show you that a little time and effort goes a long way. We'll clean it up with weeding, and let's remove plants that aren't happy there. We'll see the remaining shrubs need a little trimming. And of course, adding fresh mulch creates an enormous impact. And let's add begonias to fill in a couple of the open spaces. Look sharp. Now let's see, what else does it need? Something fun, little eye-catching. How about some adorable frogs? Again, that's a no. No, no. Less decor is more. This front looks rich compared to its original state. A little effort goes a long, long way. Now we'll look at key elements around the exterior of the property and look at items like a buyer. When you're preparing your house to sell, it's important to keep this thought top of mind. I'm not selling my home, I'm selling a product. I'm not selling my home, I'm selling a product. Let's talk about a power washing machine. It's also called a pressure washer. It's a magical device you connect to a garden hose and it creates high pressure water to spray things down. You can pick one up for $100 or less, and it basically brings back surfaces to life with a renewed, even tone. I recommend power washing first before you do anything because it does double duty to visually identify any cosmetic issues you may want to address. You'll want to power wash everything. This includes decks, driveways, railings, gutters, what else? Pavers, anything with dirt, grime, mildew, and that sticky, awful pollen that's everywhere in RVA. Please don't use it on the roof as it'll damage the surfaces. Now, this do-it-yourself project isn't for everyone, and I can recommend trusted professionals in RVA if you aren't comfortable to pressure wash. Either way, it's worth the money to pressure wash. After pressure washing, you may find missing mortar around bricks that need repointing, flaking off paint from wood or stucco. It's best to repair and repaint as needed. It's a lot of information here, I know. And as I mentioned, I created a comprehensive checklist to break things down for quick reference. A link is provided in the description below to receive a complimentary copy. And stay tuned for my biggest recommendations yet. Now for landscaping. You'll need to manicure your lawn, trim shrubbery, bushes, and trees. It makes a huge impact because growth can get out of control quickly, as you can see. Trees growing on a house will be flagged on inspections and are a hazard. They cause damage to the house during windstorms, and rodents use it as a little bridge to access the roof and make themselves nice and comfy at home, wherever. In dense areas like the city of Richmond, trees planted on city property sidewalks can overtake rooftops. I see it quite a bit. If you have an issue, you can go to rva311.com to put in a request for tree trimming. Or if you're not in Richmond, reach out to your public works department. All right, back to business. If you have patches of lawn that aren't doing well, you can quickly transform the area with plants and mulch. Look how a quick fix turns an eyesore into a landscape feature. Gorgeous, right? You'll want to edge sidewalks and driveways for a neat appearance. Our eyes go straight to edges, and it's worth addressing those details for a nice buttoned up look. We have lots and lots of picket fences in RVA, and fresh paint on them create a strong first impression. If you have a picket fence and it's in rough shape, I recommend you repair and repaint it. If that isn't possible, you may need to remove it altogether, completely. Otherwise, it's a big turnoff for buyers because it's a glaring eyesore and represents a lot of work to be done. Okay, clean out light fixtures and replace old light bulbs. Warmer lighting sets a nice, welcoming tone. Oh, and incidentally, see how this grayish taupe door? That color pairs nicely with this lighter gray home, right? Okay, clean gutters and downspouts. Check to see if any need repair. Let's talk about air conditioners and heat pumps. They attract spider webs, critters, and weeds grow around them galore. It's good practice to clear the area up and make sure the unit has proper airflow to run efficiently, and it reduces wear. So this is an impression that you've maintained the system properly, right? Remove any screens from the window frames so window exteriors can be properly power washed to clear out whatever strange collects in between. And here's a pro tip. I recommend keeping the screens off until the listing pics are taken. It's a polished, sparkling look both inside and out. Photographs of rooms without screens will make your house shine online. If you have an asphalt driveway with cracks and the surface is faded, having it sealed is a big bang for the buck for curb appeal. The cost was about $400 here. It really sets precedence that the property is being well cared for. Let's look at a garage for some key issues that may need to be addressed. First off, try to have a place for the trash and recycling cans that are conspicuous and not kicking around. We haven't talked about roofs yet. If there are shingles that need replacing, now is the time to do so. If shingles have moss, mold, mildew, or stains on them, there's a soft washing service that cleans the shingles with an eco-friendly process. I had mine done for $350 and the results are impressive. Look how an even tone on a roof looks on this example. And feel free to reach out to me for recommendations on that particular service. Garage doors get abused, and if a pressure wash doesn't bring them back to life, you may need to repaint. It's a drag, I know it, but fresh paint on those doors has big impact on appeal because it's a large focal point that draws the eye. You'll see the difference. Let's see what resealing the pavement looks like, just for fun. Nice. If you want to fancy it up a little more for impact, let's place some planters at the ends. Now that's a garage a buyer would be happy to come home to, versus a gloomier, stressful welcome of things that need to be done when they get home and occupy their weekends. You get the picture, right? A great backyard or space is important. Your backyard, deck, patio, balcony, they all require staging concepts. And I'll go over those concepts in my staging video. The link to that video is below. Basically, the rule of thumb to a great backyard is focus on an area and make it marvelous. Simplicity works here. Think about places you've been that made you feel relaxed. You want to create an oasis where the buyer sees themselves decompressing, being with family, having a great time entertaining. And the space probably wasn't cluttered, right? It was inviting. You want buyers to create a mental picture of them living there. Okay, we've covered the most common elements sellers typically face to improve curb appeal. You may feel overwhelmed, like where do I start? What's really important here? What's going to be a waste of time and money that I'll never recoup? Ugh, I get it. The fact that you're watching videos like this to educate yourself is evidence that you want to maximize the sale of your home. And that is great. What I know for a fact is that sellers who engage and educate themselves early in the selling process make significantly more money and sell with less stress and less trauma. But I find when most sellers decide to sell, they initially go it alone. They stress out and muddle through what they think should be done. Sellers do this before contacting a real estate professional because they want to put their best foot forward to impress. They want to get a high valuation. I get it. It's human nature. But it's an inefficient and stressful way to go. You need to keep in mind that a good seasoned real estate professional looks at potential and is an advocate to optimize profitability from a property. There's nothing we haven't seen. So each house is different, and a realtor can give you a clear roadmap. A game plan of what to focus on. What is a waste of time and what is a waste of money that you'll never recoup? A professional will filter the noise and give a clear plan to reduce your stress while maximizing results. Also, if you need to do repairs, a deep clean, or paint, a seasoned pro will most certainly have a concierge list of trusted tradespeople we've worked with, to take care of you. That's what we do. My biggest recommendation is to work with a trusted realtor as soon as you know you're going to be selling. I work with clients for up to a year to guide them through the process to reduce their stress and maximize their gain. Now, I service the Richmond metro area, but if you're located outside Richmond, Virginia, and are suffering with analysis paralysis, feeling overwhelmed, I can connect you with real estate professionals that service your area. I have a vast network, oh boy, of seasoned realtors across the country who are diligent, who are savvy, and who can communicate. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. If you are struggling with decluttering to prep your house to sell, you'll want to watch this next video on how I coach seller clients through the process. It will change your life, or at least make it a little bit better. You decide. I'm Michael Hitz, listing specialist with Joyner Fine Properties in Richmond, Virginia. Knowledge equals confidence, and I want that for you.